Assignment 2C, review. So question number 1, how many additional shares of stock would Chester have needed to repurchase to have an earnings per share that was at least equal to that of Andrews? So one of those damn story problems, but I'm asking you about earnings per share, okay? And so the formula, earnings per share is equal to earnings divided by shares outstanding. Relatively simple, and sort of put this one together, you just kind of needed to know the variables that you know versus the one that you don't. So you know what the earnings per share is that we're shooting for, right? Okay, we're going to try to get the earnings per share that Andrews had, right? Because we want to see what Chester would need to do to get up to Andrews' level of earnings per share. I'm not on to my report, but I'll get on there. Okay, and then we also know, okay, that in this case we're not changing any of Chester's earnings, right? So we know what their earnings are, and so what are we missing? Well, of course, how many additional shares of stock. That ought to tell you then that the variable that we're missing is the shares. Okay, the shares, and in this case we're going to do shares outstanding. We're going to have to do a little bit more math then to get back to the answer that we need. So I'm going to get this opened up, maybe, hopefully, so we can have a look at that. Round 2 is what that was. So earnings per share is equal to earnings divided by shares outstanding. So if we go back and look at I'll get you there. What Andrews' earnings per share was $4.28. Okay, so you got $4.28 and is equal to the earnings of Chester, which is $7,973,801. Right? So I got $4.28 is equal to $7,973,801 divided by X. Okay. So you got to do the magic of algebra, and I got to do it longhand. So I got to take both sides times x. So you got 428x is equal to that. So then I got to divide both sides by 428, okay? Because your x is on the bottom here, so that's what you got to do to get it to the top. And anyhow, so it's $7,973,801 divided by $4.28. And this number seems kind of logical, right? Because it's kind of close to where they were. This is the number of shares that Chester would have needed to get down to. Okay, that's the number of shares that that they would have needed to get down to for their earnings per share to be $4.28. What Chester did get down to was 1,926,072 shares minus this number then tells me the number of shares that Chester would have needed to repurchase or buy back in the marketplace, $63,034. Whether or not they had the ability to do that, I don't know. They may or may not have had enough cash, but also the game limits, how many you can buy back each round. 2 then, what's the total production needed, all teams, next round, to fill the projected demand in the traditional segment, taking into consideration inventory on hand and the production adjustments. So let's talk about what's the production inventory on hand, we should know, but what's the production adjustment? If you look at your decisioning for and actually you can read it in the guide too, but if you look at your decision when you're making your production decisions, and if you put in 1,000, okay, that you want to produce 1,000, you'll see that it's only going to make 990. Okay? Well, the reason for that is that there's a 1% kind of a, let's call it a loss ratio or something, okay, give it whatever term you want, that bad product or something, right? When you're making stuff, whatever it is, you're always going to have some that come out with a flaw in it or whatever that gets discarded, and they estimate their loss ratio to be at about 1%. So we're going to need to factor that adjustment in at the end. So what's the we start with this: the demand this round for round 2 for the traditional product. Get down to it, 8,776,000 units. Okay, 8,776,000 units. The growth rate, let's put that 9.6%. So now the long way to do this would be to multiply it by 9.6%. That would tell you how many it's going to grow by, and then you would add that to the 8,776,000. But if you multiply something by 1, you get that number, right? So you can shorten this equation or make it easier just by taking this then 8,776,000 by times 1.096. Okay, and that's equal to our demand for round 3 is going to be 9,618,000. Okay. Inventory on hand, if I added it correctly, okay, you guys, if you came up with a different answer, believe me, I'll start looking and go back and check my addition, but 1,575 units on hand in the traditional segment. So they need to produce 8,043 units. We need to have 8,043 units. How do I calculate that then with the 1%? I divide it by 0.99. So I take my 8,043 and divide that by 0.99. It should give me a number that's a little bit bigger, okay? And it does. It gives me 8,124, okay? And that's the production that I need after adjustment. Okay, so a little bit more than what's there because of the 1%. How I'd calculate that is if I took 1% of this, okay, you'd take 81 units basically off of there. So you'd 81 subtracted from 8124, and you'd end up with 8043. Why didn't Ebb sell very well in the low end? Well, Ebb had all kinds of problems. Okay, not to pick on Erie, but poor Ebb here in the low end. It's way down here, only 6%, only sold 673 units. Okay, well, what's the first customer buying criteria? Price. Where's Ebb at for price? Oh, of the natural low-end units, we'll call it, it had the highest price. They're lucky they sold 673 units. What's the next thing? Age. Well, its age, it was actually closer than quite a few of them. Okay, it was closer than these, so I would give them credit. So age wouldn't have been the biggest factor, but it's certainly not as close as these to that age of 7. These are right up there, toward close to the expected age or the desired age. Okay, so age would be a factor. Okay, it wasn't as big a factor. I didn't ask you to really prioritize them or anything, but age would be a factor. Positioning. You know, Ebb, oops, I'm sorry, get back here. And I'm going to go look at the big perceptual map. Ebb's back here. Okay, it's nowhere near the ideal. Okay, they actually spent money moving it backward. It kind of seems a little bit odd. But it's back there, and so the positioning's just not what the market's looking for. Relatively low sales and promo budget. Again, it's not the lowest, so I can't say that, you know, relative to maybe one or two of the other products, it wasn't better, but it was pretty low. Okay, I bet 800,000 for the promo budget, 800,000 for the sales, lower than everybody except for Fast, which was the next worst selling item. So, just a list of reasons there. Okay. Digby had $9,912,000 in net cash from operations. Aside from depreciation and extraordinary items, the following 3 items were factors. Did the account balance of these 3 items increase or decrease on the balance sheet? And what I want you to get used to here, and there was an easy way to check it, but is understanding the impact when we talk about cash, right? I got to think these things through every time myself. So accounts payable, that's what we're paying out. Okay, and so if that cost us cash, right? In other words, we had to increase the cash out, then that means that it would have, I got to check, would have increased. Okay, on our accounts payable balance would have increased on the balance sheet. And the same thing for inventory then in that case. right? Our inventory cost us a bunch of cash, so that means that our inventory increased on our balance sheet, and then it would be just the opposite for accounts receivable. So it's kind of the opposite of what we see here. So there you have those three.